Hello, everyone. We are just going to give folks a couple of more minutes to join the call, and then we'll get started. And just to confirm, Channa, you can see my screen since we went over to the live link.
Yes.
Okay,
Both.
perfect.
I see all of you panelists and the presentations.
Awesome. All right. So yeah, we'll just hang on another minute or two here before we get started. Okay, well, exciting times, another Coupa release, and thank you for joining the Coupa R39 webinar presented by Cross Country. So today is our R39 webinar Lunch and Learn. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to the folks who are joining. We're really excited to have everyone here today. We want to share some key highlights and some impacts of the recent R39 release, as well as some cross-country release management resources that will be available to you after this call. It's our goal by the end of this session, along with the additional materials, which again will include this deck as well as a full management release guide, that you're able to get the most out of Coupa's most recent release. Please do not hesitate to reach out to myself or other members of the cross-country team if you need further support. Okay, before you get to meet the rest of the team and we dive into the material, there's just a couple of housekeeping items that I want to talk through. So first off, you'll notice as a participant, your audio is muted. You will have the opportunity throughout the presentation, though, to ask questions. And so outside of myself and two other presenters, we do have other folks from the cross-country team that will be kind of viewing that chat and are able to answer questions as we're going through the presentation. For those of you that are here as well, obviously to learn more about the release from Coupa, but also earn some CPE credits, you must be here for the presentation for at least 50 minutes. And then also there are 3 polling questions. So they will appear on your screen. They are required. There's no right or wrong answer. So just ensure that you're paying attention and you're aware when those come up. Lastly, most folks will have R39 in their sandbox environment. So as we're going through the presentation and sharing the updates and the highlights, feel free to kind of walk along with us. All right, drum roll, time to meet today's facilitators. So there's myself, Ian Gray. I am joined by this illustrious panel of folks, Obi Newday and Steve Wilson. Okay, so our objectives for today, 1, we're going to identify the R39 updates. Procurement, invoicing, Coupa Pay, the SIM module, supplier information management, some overall platform updates, and some really exciting updates to the mobile app, which I watched the recording from the last session. I think there will be folks on this call that are excited what we're going to be sharing with you today. By the end, hopefully you're able to recognize the impacts of this latest release. Every organization is unique. Not all organizations have the same modules. So, as a stakeholder within your company, and a champion for the Coupa platform. We're hoping you can recognize how these changes will impact your organization. And then finally, the part that you'll be quizzed on the most is identifying the 5 levels of CrossCountry's release management offerings. Okay, our agenda for today, we've just gotten through the introductions. We'll walk through the CrossCountry release offerings. We'll get to key release updates. And then there'll be a Q&A and a wrap-up portion at the end as well. Again, important to note, those who've just joined, we haven't gotten to the good stuff yet, so you're just in time. We will send out additional material after this webinar, a full release guide, and then obviously if you have questions post the webinar, feel free to reach out to our team, and we'll include contact information and whatnot as well. Okay, those here for the webinar as well as the CPE credits. As a reminder, if you're here for the CPE credits, make sure you answer the poll. Again, there's no right or wrong answer. What is your Coupa role in your organization? So we'll hang out for about 30 seconds as folks are answering here. I think, this is going to give us an idea of the type of audience that we have today. While the presentation's not tailored, it will give us some understanding on how we can better provide value for you guys after this webinar, as well as in future webinars. Okay, couple more seconds here. Oh, wow. Okay, this is interesting. There's an overwhelming amount of admins on the call. We do have a few buyers and folks in the AP team as well, and then a small population of users or other user. So yeah, awesome. Thanks everyone for joining. All right, now with that, I will hand it over to Obi.
All right. So now we're going to talk through some of the different offerings that CrossCountry has to offer. So if we go to the next slide. So from a PPS perspective, we talked about this in Release 38 webinar, but CrossCountry also offers PPS support for other applications. So whether it be NetSuite, UiPath, Alteryx, or Intact, as well as your Coupa environment, CrossCountry is well versed in these other tools, and we can offer you support. So from an innovation perspective, your enterprise management consolidation, and then strategic costs and improvements for human capital transformation or various transactions that you're having within your organization. We really see CrossCountry as an extension of the CFO. So if you have other opportunities or other processes or changes that are happening within your organization, whether it be risk, cyber, other spaces within the accounting space, please reach out to us. All right. Let's go to the next slide. And so from a PPS perspective, this is kind of how we're organized within the CrossCountry space. So you have your procure to pay support, which we generally offer for all of our clients. And then we have supplier enablement. So if you need help with onboarding suppliers, SIM, from that perspective, we also focus in on the supplier enablement piece. So we can do supplier training if you want us to help with your supplier training for your suppliers that are on your CSP. And then more recently is this release management. So every quarter, as you have your release, CrossCountry is reaching out to our client base and trying to help them with release management. And we'll get deeper into release management on the further slides. And again, we are here to do health checks. So if you've had Coupa for 3, 4, 2 years, a year, and you want us to come in, assess your environment, CrossCountry offers a health check to come in and assess your environment. And actually, we gave away a free health check at the latest Inspire. Okay. And so this is just a similar slide around administrative services. So whether it be your operational support from a day-to-day perspective, the PPS team is here to help you with that. Optimizing and enhancing your environment, the PPS team is here to help you with that. So just trying to get the most out of your Coupa environment, that's generally what we focus on. So release management, and now we'll get deeper into release management, but there are 3 levels of release management support that Cross Country now offers. So sourcing and buying. So if you have the sourcing module or you're trying to look at sourcing, we can help you with your sourcing and buying effort. So from consolidating your suppliers and things like that around your buying effort. And security and user management. So setting up your users, with each release, new permissions come out into your environment. So just helping you manage your permissions, updating your security, and then just improving your user experience. And again, supplier enablement, onboarding your suppliers, getting your suppliers on the CSP, getting to that electronic invoicing for all your suppliers. We're here to help you with that as well. And so from a reporting perspective, reporting and analytics, I definitely see more clients getting into this reporting piece, adding analytics from a Coupa perspective, digging deeper into their environment and trying to find ways to improve their bottom line. And integrations. So whether it be NetSuite or other ERP applications that you're integrating with, Cross Country is here to help you with the integrations, and we've already talked about health checks. Okay, so overall, just trying to maximize your use of Coupa and focusing in on your business, allowing you to focus in on your business and less stress about your Coupa environment. All right. And so PPS, we can also tailor our services to your needs. So you don't have to get everything, but specifically what you need or where you want us to focus. It's a communication and a team effort to get the most out of Coupa. So we have over 200 clients that we currently support. We have 30 team members dedicated to supporting you all over the world, and we support 85 different countries and 800 tickets processed monthly as we use Workfront to manage our ticketing process.
I'm exhausted just thinking about that, Obi. Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm going to sneak in here and talk about training as a service. This is a fairly new offering from Cross Country Consulting, featuring interactive instructor-led training, either virtually or in person. You may or may not be aware that Coupa has stopped providing the instructor-led courses. So as a training partner, we're able to do so. So we've got a couple of options for you here. And with all the admins that we saw that are online, option 1 might be attractive for you. We are offering the Coupa Procure to Invoice System Administration course, which is designed to help you learn how to configure and maintain your system. This is a 3-day virtual course, and the dates that you have up there on the screen are the dates for the next 5 months. So if you'd like to get certified and get a badge and a certificate, then that might be a really good option for you. Option 2 is a completely customizable content, totally custom curriculum. This is good for maybe new hires or leveling up your team. And some of our customers are choosing to actually do a combination of the two, so they aren't mutually exclusive. So we've had some customers will start out with the admin class and do that on site, and then have a custom curriculum where they're adding a day or 2 afterwards. So please use the provided link at the bottom there for more information and to register. We'd love to have you.
Okay, back to you, Obi.
All right, so now we're going to get into the 5 key release management offerings at Cross Country. So we have a release reference guide, release webinars, system health checks, regression testing, and then release impact and assessments. So let's go to the next slide. So we offer 3 levels of release management support. So first is just high-level impact assessment, and that's going over all of the things that are going to be impacting your system. So it's just a full list of items that are prepared by Coupa, and then we will give you examples and highlight specific items that are going to impact your system that are relevant from you. So that's generally like one meeting. We meet for an hour and go through all of the items that are going to impact you. The second one is the full scale impact assessment. Not only will we do the first part, but we will also have regression testing in your environment. So just making sure things are working as expected. So just making sure. So we'll have a script that will run through regression test and get sign off as far as things are working as expected before we go to production. And then lastly is the new feature assessment. So we'll look at the new enhancements. We'll work together through the new enhancements to make sure that they work in our test environment and they don't impact our production environment when those new enhancements, either we turn them on in the new environment or when they are released into our new production environment. So those are the 3 levels of support that we offer around release management. Let's go to the next slide. So this is just a deeper dive into what we just talked about, right? So the high level impact assessment, this is a screenshot of what that looks like. Basically, it's an Excel spreadsheet. We'll go through all the assessments and then we'll add our comments and screenshots on the right side for us to go through together. So the next one. And so not only will we do that with the first one, the second thing we will do with the second offering is we'll do regression testing, and we'll regression test all the way through to your integrations. So making sure integrations work for items that are going to your ERP. So let's go to the next one. And then lastly, this is the offering that we have where we do the enhancement testing. So we'll treat it pretty much like a project. We'll have the build phase, all the phases like a project, as well as moving it to production. Okay.
Okay, thanks, Obi.
Mhm.
Again, as a reminder for those looking to receive CPE credits, these polling questions are required. Again, there's no right or wrong answer. So for the group, how many Coupa releases have you experienced? Give folks just another few seconds here. All right, just waiting on a couple more. There's always this awkward pause here, and the answers are in. Okay, awesome. So about just over 50% of the folks on this call have experienced more than 3 Coupa releases. A third have experienced 1 to 2 releases. And then there's just over 10% where this is your first release. So, honestly, whether it's your first release or you've gone through 10, 20 of these releases before, please don't hesitate to reach out to Cross Country. We'll be, doing these webinars and hope that they're helpful. So, yeah, really glad for everybody in terms of where they are in their journey and experience with Coupa. So that's awesome information for us to know. Thank you. All right, Obi, over to you for key release highlights.
I'm actually going to be
over to
taking
Steve.
this.
Sorry,
Yes,
Steve.
no worries. No worries.
Take it away, Steve.
I'll be Obi for a day. No, let's get into the Release 39 highlights, starting out with platform. But before I get into the details here, I wanted to point out a couple of features. And I realize that you can't see my pointer, but if you look in the upper right-hand corner of the gray box there, you'll see that icon with the square with the little arrow. That is a handy link that will take you directly to the release note article for this particular feature. So if you find a feature that you're interested in getting a little bit more detail on, then this is really handy to take you right directly to that release note article for that feature. At the very bottom, you'll see that we have 3 boxes there with either check marks or X's for on default. So whether this feature is going to be on default, whether there's an impact to the roles and permissions. Thanks for the assist there, Ian. The roles and permissions or integration. So those are two areas where if you see the check for roles and permissions being affected or integrations being affected, where you might want to use that link up in the upper corner to get a little bit more information, find out a little bit more detail as to how this might affect you from a roles and permissions or integration standpoint. Parallel approvals were introduced last year, a way of streamlining the approval process. We're pretty excited to see that, but it was only available for specific approvers. And with this release, Coupa has now added the parallel approvers option to specific approver plus management hierarchy. So that's a welcome addition. As well as there's a couple of related features that were added as well. They added more form types for specific approvers, namely supplier information, user, contract, expense pre-approval, and custom objects. And another welcome option is that previous to R39, anyone could add or manually add an approver for parallel approvers. And now what Coupa has done is added in the approvals global preferences area a new option titled allow users to manually add parallel approvers. So you have much more control over whether people can actually do that or not, which is awesome. In the next area here, the email notification updates, Coupa is basically continuing to refresh the user interface, the UI, and kind of improve the look and feel and cleaner content and make it easier to follow as far as email summaries, highlighted updates, and clear actions. This has been migrated to a set of emails, and then they will be continuing to kind of migrate those options. But the UI enhancements have been really quite nice, so it's kind of nice to see a fresh look, and they're just adding it to the emails now. Next one. All right, this is probably one of my favorite features because I've heard the pain points from our customers. For users, end users using the requisition line forms, it's really been a challenge for them to understand how this requisition line form is working and how that data is being moved into the cart, into the draft requisition, and what to do next. So what Coupa's done is improve the messaging to really clarify what's going on here. So the fact that the data that they're submitting through the rec line form is being added to the cart, that you're creating a line item, you'll see that there is a new link. Number 2 there's a new repeat your request link. So if you want to use the same rec line form again to do another line in the cart, you can easily repeat that. And then another welcome change is they changed the done button, which wasn't really clear to users, to view cart page. So all of these features are to kind of help kind of follow up with a guided buying experience, right? To help the user really understand what they're doing and the fact that they still need to follow up in the cart and submit that requisition as opposed to just stop after completing the rec line form. It's on by default, roles and permissions integrations not affected. A follow along, just a similar, basically in the same realm here with rec line forms, but specific to the quantity-based forms. What Coupa has done is added some additional fields to support the maintenance, repair, and operations type requests, as well as some other use cases. The fields that were added that you can now add to a rec line form quantity is the manufacturer, or I should say, are the manufacturer name, the manufacturer part number, supplier part number, savings percentage, shipping terms, payment terms, and UNSPSC. And that's on by default as well. This is another feature that was added last year in R36 where they improved the messaging for pending buyer action. And what Coupa's done here is improve the messaging. The panel off to the right-hand side, you'll see the blue arrow icon will open up the super screen validation panel. And what they've done is they've made that available to requesters as well to help prevent them from submitting a request that's going to immediately go into pending buyer action. So for the requesters as well as the buyers and approvers, you now have much better messaging as to what exactly is going on that's leading into pending buyer action and understanding what has happened previously with someone who may have cleared the pending buyer action situation. They also updated the history entries, and there is a note there in the screenshot that the permission that is driving the access to this panel is requisition headers view superscreen validation. So something you might want to take note of if you want to enable this for your users. I did on one of my test systems found that my custom user role was automatically updated, so that was a welcome change. So roles and permissions definitely affected by default, but no integration. We all love OpenBuy. OpenBuy, of course, being able to return items from a punch-out catalog instead of the user having to go out to the punch-out. There is an API available, and because the API will significantly improve the search speed, what Coupa has done now is given you some little hints to encourage you to activate the OpenBuy API for those suppliers that are supporting it. So you'll see in the top screenshot, it's kind of small there, but there is a yellow exclamation mark that will show in the actions column. Yep. And that is one hint. And when you're creating suppliers and setting up OpenBuy, you are encouraged to basically configure the OpenBuy API. There's also, in addition to that little icon, there is a gold banner that will display across the top of the screen that says, there are newly added API suppliers. Please enable API for all available suppliers to increase OpenBuy speeds. So it definitely behooves you to configure that to improve the speeds of the items returned from OpenBuy. So this is a really cool feature. The CXML extrinsics for requisition custom fields, basically CXML has a structure of really only supporting certain standard type data fields that are going back and forth between you and your punch-out suppliers. And what we've done here, what Coupa has done, I should say, is added a mechanism for mapping fields. So you'll see in that screenshot there's a new CXML mapping column with a link for start mapping. And so if mappings already exist, it'll say view mapping, and you can open that up and then configure that. So this is a welcome change to be able to then transmit and receive non-standard data between you and your punch-out suppliers. Moving on to travel and expense. Basically, before you were limited to only reassign a corporate card expense report one time. So now they've improved that where you can actually do it multiple times. So if you make a mistake or if there's some use case where you need to reassign it once again, you have that ability to do so. This is on by default. There is no effect to the roles and permissions or the integrations. Along with that, with additional expense report changes for Uber and Lyft and Coupa Travel for Uber and Lyft integrations, the completed trips are now added under your receipts, which is a really nice change because before it was creating another expense report. So that'll be much better setup. Coupa Travel integration, if it's a corporate card, the receipts are going to be automatically attached when matched with the expense. If it's a non-corporate card, then there's no change in the behavior. And lastly, for automatic matching of receipts for the corporate card users, if it's matched successfully, the receipt attaches automatically to the corporate card expense line. And if there isn't a match, then you can manually add the receipt if necessary. Moving on to mobile, this is pretty cool. You can now create a write or freeform request directly in the mobile app. You can also add photos or attachments, and you'll see a note there that you do need to upgrade to the latest version of the Coupa app in order to have this feature activated.
Yeah, this one was super exciting,
Yeah.
Steve, when you shared. When I was alluding to it earlier, I hope there's other folks on the call just as excited as
I had a
as we were.
feeling
This
that was the one that you were thinking of, Ian. You know, it's just like
absolutely.
huge, huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Very welcome. Yeah, going through the release notes and going through these new features, you start rehearing the customers and the pain points that you've been introduced to along the way, and engagements, or in my case, if I'm teaching classes. So, yeah, you hit these ones and you go, oh, I know exactly who's going to love this one. Very good. Yep. Okay, continuing on with mobile. We have the ability to add approvers in the mobile app. Much like the web version, you can select where those approvers are placed. So if you want to add them after the current approver or at the end, and again, this is a new feature that you'll have to update the app in order to get. This is also a welcome addition to the mobile app. As Ian's nodding, yep, I'm with you. I'm with you. And lastly, on the mobile, you have the ability to do quick receiving. So you can receive multiple lines from the same PO through the mobile app. Similar to the web version, it's not supported for customers who have required custom fields on the receipts. So that is the only thing that you should be aware of where you may not be able to use this. And again, you need to upgrade to the latest version of the app to see this new feature. Moving on to Coupa Pay. Now, this is an interesting one. So for supplier payment accounts, there is this new field, you'll see that highlighted at the very bottom there, to be able to set a value for basically the amount or below for a specified amount, basically to allow for virtual cards. And the background of this feature, because Obi and I were talking about this and going, I wonder what drove this one. So basically, some suppliers avoid accepting virtual cards for high value payments. So basically to keep their processing fees to a minimum. So since there was no limit on how much could be charged in a virtual card transaction, basically suppliers kind of shied away from accepting the cards. So this was a way of improving adoption for suppliers by having that limit that you could set within the supplier payment account. Now this does only apply, I want to call your attention to the note, this does only apply to virtual card on invoice only. And it is available by default, but there are no permissions or integrations that have been affected by this one. And then this is also a cool addition for the supplier payment accounts. Basically, prior to R39, the remittance email address was only set at the supplier level, and basically you use the primary contact. Well, this is given in a lot of cases that email address wasn't exactly where the supplier wanted that to go. So you now have the ability on the SPA level to create an email address there for the remittance address. And Coupa is looking to expand this feature in the future. There is some notes here that if there is a problem with the email bouncing back or being blocked or something, you'll get an alert icon within the payment details. And then what you'd want to do is contact your supplier and recreate the SPA with the correct email address. The last bullet there, Coupa is planning on expanding this functionality in the Coupa supplier portal so that suppliers would be able to attach that email address to the SPA when they're creating it within the CSP. So cool stuff as far as Coupa Pay. For those of you who want instant gratification, Faster next day payment of invoices through TransferMate. So this is available for TransferMate customers that are in the US, the United Kingdom, or the Eurozone. And regardless of whether you have one or several or 100 payments in your batch, the next day payments from the CFA TransferMate will charge one fixed reverse wire fee per batch per company financial account. The cutoff time happens to be 10 a.m. Pacific, and anything that's released after that time will be processed the following day, and you would expect settlement the following day from that. And then check signature. So for when creating or editing a company financial account that is used for check payments, you can choose to add a signature image. And Coupa is allowing you to actually draw the signature directly within the Coupa platform, or you can upload an image. As far as supplier information management, some welcome additional custom fields that are added for RPM and RPMA customers. So there are these additional categories that are added for RPM. So supplier classification, tax, insurance, enterprise supplier data categories. And then for RPMA, you basically have those same categories in addition to risk. And for RPM users, basically you have access to 10 total custom fields per category. And for you that are on the advanced version, RPMA, you will have access to a total of 20 custom fields per category. And one last option there, you are now able to sync the custom fields to the supplier record. Very cool. So I'll hand it back over to Obi.
So one thing I do want to point out well, two things. So one is, Steve, and thank you for this one. I do want to tell the users I couldn't hold it, but around the roles.
Oh yeah.
Are now sorted by alphabetical order.
On the user record.
On your user record. So each user record now, the roles are in alphabetical order. So it makes it a whole lot easier to find your user roles and select those for those individuals. And then the other thing I want to point out is around SIM. So with the syncing of your SIM records, you can now choose whether a SIM record gets updated on an update to an existing supplier or the add of an existing supplier. So if you're adding a new supplier, you can choose whether those records transfer into the supplier record from the SIM record, or you can choose for it to do both. So when you're adding and updating your SIM record, you can have it update the supplier record through the SIM sync on your setup page. Okay, so those are the two things before we get into the impacts. All right, so key impacts. So the first one, just around open buy. So with open buy, you can now create a to-do items notification when one of your punch-out suppliers adds support for the Coupa open buy API. So just managing your suppliers when that open buy is turned on, you basically get that notification to your suppliers. So enabling API for punch-out suppliers results in a significant improvement in your search speed. So I've tried it in the test environment, turn it on in test, check your search speeds, definitely a lot faster search speeds when you're searching for those different items. The next one. And a one-time password for SAN suppliers. So now when you have a SAN supplier that's trying to submit an invoice through the SAN, through that email, they'll have to create a password to be able to log in and create that invoice for you. Okay, so let's go to the next one. And then lastly, the registration of CSP account creation. So for better security and supplier experience, creating CSP accounts requires a tax registration. So now if someone's creating a CSP account, they automatically have to put that tax ID on their CSP profile. So just being aware of that for your suppliers and your vendors as they're onboarding to the CSP. Okay. And then payment batch usability enhancement. So within your payment batch, you now have the ability, if a payment batch you have over 20 records and something fails, one of the records fails on your creation of that payment batch, you can now fix the error. You'll get a message saying you have an error on your payment batch. You can go in, modify that payment, fix that payment, and then submit the whole batch. And so your submission button will be grayed out until you fix that batch. All right, next set of questions. Back to you, Ian.
Thanks, Obi.
Mhm.
Okay, and so this is our last polling question. And as a reminder for those here for CPE, please ensure that you are answering the question. So is your organization ready for R39? Again, no right or wrong answer. And I see folks are utilizing the Q&A feature. Please continue to do so. With time that we have at the end of the planned presentation, we will take time to continue to answer those questions. Give folks just another few seconds here. Awesome. Okay, so about 40% are not prepared for R39, which is totally fine, which is why we're here today to be part of this webinar. Again, as you're thinking about how are you going to deploy this out to the rest of your organizations, feel free to lean on cross country. A few are somewhat ready, and a small percentage are completely prepared, which again is fine. That's why we're all here. I should have saved my drum roll in the beginning when I introduced everybody for this part. So at the recent Coupa Inspire, in the last week of April, week of April 22nd, Cross Country was awarded the North America Regional Partner Award of 2024. Now, the reason that we have this here, obviously want to thank the Cross Country team, but really want to thank our clients. The faith you put in us to allow us to solution things for you, the collaboration and impact that you've had on our organization is immense, even specifically within, our Coupa pod. And so we wanted to take this opportunity to thank you for, again, the opportunities that you provided us to enhance your organizations by providing high quality professional services. No, it won't go away from that slide. Oh, sorry. There we go. Okay, so to move into our wrap up. Key takeaways, hoping that you're able to leave here with these. First, that you learned the key new features of the core modules. So P2P, Pay, SIM, and the overall platform. Myself, again, as you know, I'm taking the mobile piece with me. That was really, really cool feature. I think a lot of folks have been waiting for. Hopefully you're able to digest what was shared today and then share that impact with additional folks in your organization around the updates to the core modules, P2P, Pay, Supplier, Information Management, again, in the overall platform. And then the last takeaway is, as you're thinking about your new release, those 39% of you that are not prepared, reach out to Cross Country. We're here to assist with release management. And again, as I've noted too throughout the presentation, we'll be providing additional information as well as a full release guide for the folks that have decided to join us today, as well as through our socials. Okay, so what's next? So following this session, we're going to email an evaluation. Please, if you have the time today or in the next few days, please complete the evaluation. It's really important for us to receive the feedback so that we can continue to enhance this webinar and provide strong value for you all in future releases. So within the next 10 days, we'll update your participation status, and then we'll email a certificate of completion to participants who attended over 50 minutes and then also answered our 3 polling questions. You may be asking, Ian, you've mentioned release management support. How do I get this support? Well, if you're a new customer, please reach out to Matt Kinsavage. He's one of our directors and leader of our post-production support offering. And then those that are existing customers, please just submit a ticket through the Workfront ticket support channel, and one of our team members will coordinate with you to help through the release management process. Okay. And then before we open up for questions, at the end of this slide, again, it'll be sent out. If you have any issues with your CPE, please wait the 10 days until we are able to update the certificate. But here's where you're able to find contact information for our learning and development team lead, Sue Sajansky. All right. So I go ahead and hand it back over to Obi and team as we're getting questions through the chat here.
Yeah, so let me go ahead. So I'm just looking through the questions that we had, and I'm just going to pick a few of them to answer, and then yeah, keep the questions coming. So the first thing, if you want to know what release you're on, you can go to company information. So go to setup, company information, and then like midsection on the left side, you'll see the section and software version of the release that you're on. So if you want to check if your production environment's already on 39, you can go, you can do that in production, take a look. Someone asked, can we limit or disable the add approver and default it to the workflow? So the ability to add the approver by object type is a permission within the roles, is part of the standard user role for most basic objects, requisition, POs, changes, and invoices. Thank you for that question. Does CXML allow suppliers to attach an invoice? So the answer to that is yes. So Coupa allows suppliers to add an attachment in the CXML invoice. There's a documentation on Coupa Compass on how suppliers can update their invoice CXML payload to include the attachment. A good one, how to get the improved experience for submitting rec line forms. At the moment, we only use free form requests, so you can enable it under setup, company information, forms. So if you go to setup, company information, and then go to forms, there's an enable Coupa's next generation experience once you start utilizing the requisition forms. Okay. Okay, I think those are the most relevant questions that we've had so far for the group. And again, feel free to look on the Coupa community. They do track the release 39 issues, supports, and questions that come up. So feel free to go to the community and keep track of the issues that are coming up for release 39. And thank you again, everybody. I really appreciate all your support, and pass it back to Ian to close us out.
Awesome. Thanks, Obi. That was great. Yep. Nothing else from me. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope to see you again for R40. So thanks again. Again, don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. We look forward to providing the additional material to you here in the next few days. Thank you.